You wake up early. You work longer than planned. You finish the day tired, not satisfied. And you notice something strange. The people around you who work the hardest aren't pulling away. They're standing still. Same position, same stress, same questions at night. At some point it hits you quietly. Effort isn't separating winners from everyone else. Something else is. This part is uncomfortable. Because if effort were enough, you'd already be ahead. And that thought sits heavy for a moment. So try this as an experiment. Stop asking, how do I work harder? Ask a different question. What actually moves things with less force? Here's the frame shift. Progress isn't about pushing more. It's about finding a lever. Noise versus essential. Comfort versus freedom. Look closely at people who rise fast. They aren't always the most talented in the room. They don't always know more than you. But they know how to multiply something small into something that travels far. Every breakthrough you admire followed that pattern. Someone spotted a pressure point others ignored. They didn't add more effort, they changed the angle. Now, the uncomfortable truth again, if you feel stuck, it's not because you lack resources. It's because you're using them the same way everyone else does. That stings a little because it means the limitation isn't outside you. It's inside how you're seeing the game. So let's keep this practical. No motivation, no slogans. Imagine having nothing extra, no money, no network, no authority. That's not a disadvantage, that's raw material. Leonardo didn't start with power. Napoleon Hill didn't start with wealth. What they had was something quieter. An ability to shape thought, attention, and direction before anyone else noticed. Hold that idea for a second. Because most people never learn how to do that. And here's the open loop. If leverage doesn't come from money or status, where does it actually come from? We're going to peel that apart slowly. Not as theory, as a strategy you can test. I'm not going to tell you to believe in yourself. That advice feels good and changes nothing. Instead, we'll uncover 3 principles that operate whether you like them or not. They work quietly. They compound. And once you see them, you can't unsee them. After that, I'll walk you through a simple playbook. Not someday. Today. Even if all you have is your mind, your habits, and your attention. Especially then. Because the men who escape the time for money trap don't do more. They build something that keeps moving when they stop. And by the end of this, you'll understand exactly how to turn what you already think, already know, and already do into leverage. Not motivation. Movement. And the most important part of that process is the one almost no one expects. You're told to work harder and wait. So you do. Long hours, tight jaw, no margin. At some point you notice something that doesn't feel fair. You're pushing with both hands and the rock barely moves. Meanwhile, someone else touches a switch and the whole system shifts. That moment lands quietly. Because if effort were enough, your life would already look different. And once that thought appears, it doesn't leave. Here's the uncomfortable part. You can't go back to believing that time and sweat will rescue you. Not after you've seen the gap. But seeing it isn't the escape. It's the doorway. Right now you're in a strange place. You know the rules are broken, but you're still playing by them. Between understanding and action. Between truth and change. Most men stop here. Not because they're weak. Because they never build a way out. So let's change the experiment, not with motivation, with structure. This isn't about adding more effort, it's about direction. Bare hands versus machines. Comfort versus freedom. If you're low on money, connections, or options, don't skip this, because that lack is the starting material. That sounds wrong at first, Because you've been trained to see absence as a flaw. But absence forces precision, and precision creates leverage. Hold that thought. We'll come back to it. Leverage is simple to describe and brutal to learn. Small moves, long effects. Results that continue after you stop touching them. That's the line between labor and building, between spending time and multiplying it. Across history, this pattern doesn't change. Different eras, same mechanics. Some men build leverage through what they see, others through how they think, others through how they organize action. Most chase money first because it feels solid, because it looks like power. That's the trap. Money is never the first piece. It's the final echo. When you have none, you're forced to use what actually comes before it. Information, systems, people. Those are quiet tools, invisible at first, which is why most ignore them. Leonardo didn't start rich, he watched, relentlessly. Water, muscles, light, motion. While others specialized, he connected art to anatomy, anatomy to engineering. That ability didn't look like leverage in the moment, but centuries later, it still moves the world. Napoleon Hill didn't build with factories, he built with attention, with focus, with disciplined thought turned into coordinated action. No money, no authority, just structure applied to the invisible. Pause here, because this is where the real question opens. If leverage isn't something you buy, if it's something you shape, what are you already holding that you've never learned to use? We're not answering that yet. We're building toward it. Because the next step isn't inspirational, it's uncomfortable, and it changes how you see your own limits. And that's where things start to move, and you say the words out loud. Morning, night. Not because it feels inspiring, because repetition changes how your mind responds. At first, it sounds empty, just noise in the room. But after days, something shifts. Your attention starts to bend around it. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Most men aren't lacking drive. They're drifting. So change the experiment. Stop chasing motivation. Install direction. Noise versus signal. Comfort versus movement. A man who knows what he's building walks differently. He notices openings others pass by. He says no faster. He wastes less energy trying to feel ready. That focus isn't confidence. It's leverage in the mind. Hold this open for a moment. If direction changes behavior without effort, what happens when it's precise? If you have no money, no team, no clear plan, don't panic. Limit yourself on purpose. Write one sentence, one result, 90 days. Read it until your brain stops arguing. Because once the mind accepts a target, the body follows. But that's only one layer. And stopping there is where most people stall. The next shift is physical. Thoughts don't multiply in your head. They multiply when they leave it. Look at what survived. Sketches, notes, books, systems. Da Vinci didn't leave motivation behind. He left pages, marks that carried his thinking long after he was gone. Hill didn't leave ideas alone. He gave them a container, a book, a structure, a network that kept refining them without him in the room. This is the part most avoid because creating something tangible feels risky. Once it exists, it can be judged. But that's the trade, comfort or freedom. An artifact doesn't need your mood. It works while you sleep. It carries your intelligence without asking permission. Design, process, letter, video. One thing that moves without you touching it. Keep the loop open. If one artifact can carry your effort forward, how many could you build if you stopped overthinking? Now add the amplifier. Not a crowd, not an audience, a small circle. To 3 disciplined minds beat 30 loud ones every time. Da Vinci had apprentices who challenged his lines. Hill surrounded himself with builders, not spectators. This isn't socializing, it's alignment. You borrow perspective. They borrow clarity. Everyone sharpens. That's social leverage. Extending reach through other minds instead of more hours. Now watch what happens when these layers connect. You observe instead of consume. You aim instead of react. You build instead of wait. Patterns turn into direction. Direction turns into artifacts. Artifacts spread through people. At that point, opportunity stops being something you chase. You manufacture it. Not with luck, not with privilege, with structure. You take what you notice, you give it a target, you turn it into something that keeps working when you don't. Leverage isn't louder effort. It's invisible force, multiplied quietly, until the world has to respond. You already know the rules now, you've heard them: observation, direction, creation. But here's the quiet problem. Knowing doesn't move anything, motion does. And that's where most men stall, not at ignorance, at hesitation. So change the frame. This isn't inspiration, it's a build. 90 days. Not a dream. A structure. This is for the man with no leverage yet, no audience, no capital, no momentum. Good. That means nothing is pulling you off course. Every move here is small, visible, measurable. No luck required. Just showing up with a pen. Each day feeds the next. Each action becomes a handle you can pull later. And when enough of them lock together, something strange happens. The work keeps moving even when you stop. That's the point, not effort. A machine. Before anything is built, something harder happens. A decision with no applause. Before Da Vinci painted, he committed to seeing truth wherever it hid. Before Hill wrote a word, he locked himself into a long sentence called 20 years. No certainty, just a vow. Here's the uncomfortable part. Without commitment, every strategy collapses under boredom, so start there. One sentence, it will look too simple. That's how you know it's right. Write this in your own words. By this date, I will build one system or artifact that creates measurable value. That's it. No padding, no escape clauses. The result can be small. Embarrassingly small. What matters is that it's singular, clear. Now comes the part most people skip. Because it feels repetitive. Read it in the morning. Read it at night. Not as a ritual, as a filter. Each time you read it, you're telling your mind what to notice and what to ignore. What matters, what doesn't. Attention shifts before behavior does. This is where people lie to themselves. They say they'll start when they feel ready. Don't wait. Say it out loud today. Put the date on your calendar. Ink, not pixels. That date isn't pressure. It's a boundary. You've just installed direction that can't be negotiated away by mood. Now the next lever appears. If commitment gives you aim, observation gives you fuel. A man without money still has his eyes. Most never use them. Da Vinci didn't begin with resources. He began by looking longer than others were willing to. For the next 14 days, you run a simple test. Once a day, morning or night, you write down 3 things you noticed. Not opinions, not theories. Something you saw work. Something that failed. Something people repeat without questioning. This sounds small. It isn't. Because most people live inside noise. Few collect signal. Here's the open question. If you trained your eyes for 2 weeks straight, what patterns would start to surface that others never see? Don't answer yet. Just observe. Because this is where momentum quietly begins. Not with speed, with accuracy. And once you have that, the next step changes the game entirely. You notice things all day, at work, on the street, inside your own habits. Most of them pass through you and disappear. That's normal. That's also why nothing changes. So run a different experiment. When something catches your eye, stop for 10 seconds, write it down. What's happening? Why it feels off? Where else it might show up? This isn't journaling for comfort, it's collection. Here's the quiet discomfort. If you don't capture what you notice, You're leaking value every day. Da Vinci didn't wait for inspiration. He watched. Birds lifting, smoke bending, a candle shaking in a draft. Not for beauty, for rules. He understood something most people miss. Every movement hides a pattern. Every pattern can travel. That transfer is where creation starts. Hold the loop open. If patterns move, what else could they become? After 2 weeks, go back to your notes. Not to admire them, to cut them down. You'll see repeats. The same behavior in different places, the same friction showing up again and again. Choose 3 that still feel alive, not clever. Alive. Now comes the uncomfortable turn. Patterns alone don't matter. They're just stored tension. They need a hand. Look at what you already know how to do. Even if you've never called it a skill, you explain things clearly. You fix what's broken. You organize chaos. You listen when others rush. Everyone has something. Most never aim it. This is the shift. Observation versus application. Potential versus leverage. A writer might notice how people stall before hard answers. A designer might feel how light changes mood in a room. That noticing is useless until it's captured. Then, reused? Da Vinci's notebooks weren't scattered thoughts. They were reserves. Pages of stored force he could draw from later. Reputation, invention, influence. Your journal can do the same if you treat it like an asset. This is where leverage begins for the man with nothing. Not money, attention. But don't stop here. This is still only energy waiting. Now connect. Pick one pattern from your notes. Just one. Ask yourself what you could do with it. Translate it. Build with it. Da Vinci merged anatomy with mechanics. Tendons became machines. Hill merged thought with discipline. Ideas became structures. You don't need genius. You need a junction. Look again at what you've seen. Look again at what you can do. Where do they touch? That point is small, easy to ignore, which is exactly why it matters. And the moment you act on it, the next phase begins. You take what you already know and you push it outward. If you can write, you put it into words. If you can teach, you explain it to one person. If you can build, you sketch it instead of imagining it. Not clean, not finished, just real. Here's the quiet discomfort. Ideas feel safe only while they stay inside your head. The moment they touch reality, they can break. So change the frame. This isn't about doing it well, it's about making contact. Noise versus signal. Comfort versus movement. Write one line, one sentence that forces clarity. I will use this skill to solve this problem through this pattern. That sentence is your first prototype. Not the work itself, the direction of it. Once you name the intersection, something sharpens. You stop chasing everything. You start ignoring what doesn't belong. That focus is power. But here's the risk. Direction without action expires fast, so you move before doubt organizes itself. Da Vinci didn't wait to feel certain. He sketched, again and again, most unfinished. He knew motion exposes truth faster than thinking ever will. Now you do the same. 7 days. You build one thing, small enough to finish, concrete enough to exist. An article, a short video, a sketch, a tool, a simple plan. 72 hours of work max. This matters more than it sounds. Because leverage only grows from what exists. Most people wait for confidence. The few who act manufacture it. Hill wrote that belief without movement is empty. Da Vinci proved it with his hands. Don't polish, don't optimize. Your first artifact is not a product. It's a mirror. It shows you what holds, what collapses. When you release it, something shifts. You step out of theory. You stop behaving like labor. You start thinking like a builder. One small artifact beats 1,000 perfect plans. Because now you can measure, adjust, repeat. This is where replication begins. keep the loop open. If one object can teach you this much, what happens when you build the second? Leverage doesn't reward effort. It rewards learning speed. Build fast. Fail quietly. Learn immediately. That rhythm creates momentum. By the end of week 4, one artifact should exist in the world. Not imagined, not hidden, existing. That object is proof, not of success, of possibility. Now the next shift, feedback becomes currency. Every lever needs calibration, not praise, precision. Place your work where people can touch it. Watch what they do, where attention holds, where it leaks. Don't chase approval, chase signal. The difference decides everything. Da Vinci tested light, pigment, angle. Hill tested words, structures, habits. They refined until results repeated. And that's where this is heading next. Because once results repeat, you're no longer experimenting. You're building a system. You notice something subtle when a system starts to work. The same result appears twice. Then again, that repetition isn't luck. It's a signal. So you stop guessing and start counting. Only 3 things. How many people saw it, how long they stayed, what they did next. That's it. Everything else is noise. Here's the uncomfortable truth. If you don't measure, you're not building, you're hoping. Change the experiment, emotion out, data in, freedom versus comfort. When the signal is weak, don't panic. Touch one thing, just one. Change how it's framed. Change the format. Change the delivery. Leave the core alone until you know why it failed. Most people burn good ideas because they move too fast. Iteration is leverage stretched over time, not speed, patience. This is where frustration turns into information. And information, once organized, becomes control. A man who measures doesn't need belief, he has evidence. The moment you see even a small improvement, something shifts. You're no longer working blind, you've built a loop. That loop is the base of anything that scales. Now comes the part most people resist. Because it means letting others in. You can build alone. But leverage grows through people. Not crowds, not fans, a small circle. 3 is enough. One who creates, one who executes, one who moves it outward. That triangle is the smallest system that grows on its own. Find 2 people who move at your pace. They don't need your personality. They need your direction. Each must bring something you don't have. Taste, distribution, structure. Here's the risk. Reciprocity is required. Every 2 weeks, each delivers something real. No talk, no hype. Accountability replaces motivation. This isn't about encouragement, it's about multiplication. Hill said, "No mind rises alone." What he meant was, alignment creates force. When 3 minds lock on to the same outcome, intelligence compounds. That compound effect becomes capital. Now don't hide what you've built. That's another trap. Release it, teach it, share it. Let it move without you. Da Vinci's drawings didn't stay in his hands. They traveled through apprentices long before machines could print them. Each copy opened a new door. Your artifact should do the same. Let it spread. Let it change hands. Because once your work moves beyond you, leverage stops being a concept. It becomes real. You share the work once, then again. But this time, not alone. Each person in your small circle pushes the same piece through a different path, different feeds, different rooms. The reach stretches fast, faster than effort ever could. Here's the quiet truth. Working solo feels noble. It's also slow. So change the experiment. Don't own the idea. Move it. Control versus motion. One artifact carried by 3 people covers ground you can't reach by yourself. That spread opens doors you didn't knock on. This is social leverage, not possession, velocity, but there's a catch. Motion without structure breaks down. So the next shift is subtle. You stop pushing harder, you start removing friction. Da Vinci wrote everything down, not for history, for continuity. Hill didn't just teach ideas, he left frameworks others could run without him. That's the difference. Effort fades, systems remain. Start small, open a notebook, write what already worked. Not theories, results. What repeated, what held attention, what produced a response. Turn each into a step someone else could follow, not perfectly, reliably. This isn't software, it's memory made portable. Now automate one link, just one, schedule your output, batch the work. Create a simple path in and a clear message out. Don't chase scale yet. Chase predictability. Here's the uncomfortable insight. If results can't repeat, they're not real. The moment something works twice without extra effort, you've built a machine. That machine is your first true lever. It moves while you rest, while you think, while you plan the next step. Keep the loop open. If one system can carry this much weight, what happens when you feed it again? This is where compounding begins. You reinvest what works back into the same structure. Each new artifact strengthens the last. Each collaboration widens the path. Each routine adds output without adding strain. This is how someone with nothing starts to outrun those with more, quietly, consistently. System isn't control, it's release. It buys your attention back. So you can see again, think again, build again. That's the cycle. Notice, act, refine. Each loop tighter, each pass stronger. By day 90, 3 things should exist. A written system, a working artifact, a small circle that moves both. Together, they form independence. You're no longer chasing leverage, you're generating it. Now look back at what you built in 90 days. Because this isn't the end, it's the baseline. You didn't stumble into this, you chose it. You made a decision when it was quiet. You trained your eyes instead of scrolling. You noticed patterns instead of reacting to noise. That already separates you. You didn't stop there. You connected what you saw to what you could do. You built something small, you tested it, you adjusted without drama. Then you did something most avoid. You let others touch the work. You formed a circle that didn't motivate you. It multiplied you. At some point, chaos stopped feeling heavy because it wasn't chaos anymore. It was a system. This isn't theory, it's architecture. Any man with focus could follow it. Few will. And that's the uncomfortable truth. Hard work feels honest. Leverage feels unfair. But leverage wins. Once these moves lock in, effort stops being the ceiling. You're no longer pushing alone. You're being carried forward by structure. Now here's the open question. What does this look like in real life? Not ideas. People. Because leverage isn't real until it touches the ground. So let's ground it. 4 stories, 4 starting points, all empty-handed. The first begins late at night. A small apartment, a tired man, paint on the table after a full workday. No gallery contacts, no collectors. No time to market himself. So he borrowed the oldest tool, attention. Each morning for 1 month, he sketched one scene from the city. Not what impressed him, what made people stop walking. At first, silence, then a pattern. Motion mattered. A cyclist cutting through rain, a man tightening his tie, a child mid-run. He selected 10 sketches, printed them into a thin booklet, priced it low, $5. People bought it. Then asked for prints. Soon his notebook was earning while he slept. 1 notebook, 10 drawings, a quiet machine. No fame, no explosion. Just leverage born from observation, seeing what others miss. Turning it into something that works without you. Now don't relax yet, because the second story scales differently. 3 strangers. No influence, no shared history, a writer, a designer, a teacher. They met in a small online discussion about self-education. No one had more than a few hundred followers, nothing impressive on the surface, but they ran a different experiment. Instead of sharing opinions, they shared output every 2 weeks. No excuses. One wrote, one shaped, one explained. Ideas stopped floating, they hardened. Something started to repeat. And that's where the next shift begins. They didn't build alone, they formed a tight circle, 3 people. Each one carried a different weight. One shaped the words late at night. One turned ideas into clean visuals. One broke the method down so anyone could follow it. No meetings that went nowhere. No big plans. They built one small thing, 3 weeks. A short course, $20. The first month, 50 people bought it. $1,000 doesn't sound impressive until you realize something uncomfortable. They earned it while asleep. And then it happened again the next month. Same structure, same flow. That's when it clicked. Aligned effort moves faster than isolated effort. This is social leverage, not more people, better alignment. Now hold that open. If 3 minds can do this, what happens when the system repeats? The third story starts quieter. One person, no audience, no team, just a phone and a lesson learned the hard way. He recorded one long video, nothing polished, just clear. Then he sliced it into 5 short pieces, each with a different angle, each leading back to the same source. At first, nothing happened. A few hundred views, silence. Months passed. Then one clip resurfaced, then another. By the end of the year, 5,000 people had found him, not all at once, quietly. The long video kept growing underneath it all, feeding every fragment. That's how artifacts behave. They don't shout. They wait. Every piece you create becomes a lever of time, still pushing long after you stop touching it. Now the last story cuts closer. A consultant, smart, exhausted. Years of repeating the same explanations, selling hours, resetting every week. One night he stopped and wrote everything down, every step, every decision. He turned it into a short guide, priced it at $20. 20 people bought it the first week. That document now brings in $2,000 a month. Same pages, same words. He no longer sells time, he sells structure. Repetition became automation. That's mechanical leverage. Capturing effort once so it keeps working forever. 4 stories, 4 paths, different tools, same outcome. No head start, no privilege, just precision. Most people think they need more resources. What they really need is cleaner architecture, a better way to see, a better way to connect, a better way to repeat. That's why leverage isn't luck, and why what comes next matters even more. Once the structure exists, it doesn't need you anymore. Even a small engine keeps turning after you step away. Now, that sounds like freedom. It is, and it's also dangerous. Here's the part most skip. The same force that multiplies your effort also multiplies your errors. Leverage doesn't judge, it reflects. Whatever you put into it gets louder. Da Vinci knew this. The same designs could heal bodies or tear them apart. Hill knew it too. Ideas could free minds or quietly control them. Leverage doesn't hide intent, it exposes it. Before results grow, character does. So pause here. Before you scale anything, ask yourself quietly, what exactly am I amplifying? Who benefits if this works? What happens if others copy this system exactly as it is? If the answer points toward decay, you didn't fail late. You failed early. Change the experiment. Don't build faster. Build cleaner. Impact versus attention. The first trap shows up disguised as success. You start building for eyes, not effect. Numbers climb. Meaning drains. You post to be noticed, not to transfer value. It feels like progress. It isn't. Attention without integrity is just noise wearing leverage's mask. The second trap is quieter, comfortable. Everyone around you agrees too quickly. Your ideas never meet resistance. Your circle reflects you instead of multiplying you. Real alignment hurts a little. It questions. It pushes back. If your environment never bruises your pride, your work will stay soft. The third trap is repetition without thought. You find a model that worked once, so you force it everywhere, but leverage isn't universal. Context matters. Not every wing flies. Not every belief becomes real. Knowing when to stop copying is part of precision. The last trap feels like ambition. It's actually impatience. You scale before the foundation holds. You automate confusion. You grow something you don't yet understand. The system turns on you. Growth without structure isn't progress. It's collapse delayed. Every builder touches these edges. No one avoids them completely. The point isn't purity. It's awareness. Leverage asks you to look inward before you pull outward. Da Vinci once wrote that every mechanism reveals the nature of its maker. So decide this early. What kind of force do you want your work to project? Because leverage isn't only a strategy problem, it's a character problem. And character, once multiplied, doesn't stay small. It becomes trajectory. If this shifted how you see things, don't rush past it. Stay. There's more clarity ahead.